everybody. Jeff Jones here. Welcome to the weekly Chase Oaks Church podcast. Before we dive in, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and download the Chase Oaks Church app. The app is the best place to catch up on messages, engage with our community, and stay in the loop with everything going on around here. Most importantly, my hope is that today's message inspires you to take your next step in your faith journey. Here we go. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to At the Movies. And if this is your first time at Chase Oaks, really glad you're here. If you're online right now as well. So At the Movies is really all about the story underneath the movies, because story is a great way to teach. So the reason I know that is because when Jesus came here, his primary teaching method was stories. He told stories. And each one of these movies has a story that we're going to take and kind of filter through the wisdom of what God has said in his word and has revealed, and say, let's figure out how to be better people and how to be better at life. And today we're going to do that with a great movie called Zootopia. And there's Zootopia and Zootopia 2. Originally, I was going to do Zootopia 2 because that just came out last year. We typically do really recent movies. But I decided, hey, I'm going to see Zootopia first because I've never seen it, so that then I can do the 2. And I fell in love with the first one. And I like the second one too, so we'll have to do that down the road. Not this At the Movies, but some other time. And so we're going to do Zootopia 1, which certainly struck a chord in our culture because it grossed over $1.2 billion, won that year for the best animated film, best animated feature, the Academy Award. And then Zootopia 2 came out this past year, and it is the highest grossing U.S. animated film of all time. And so it definitely hit a nerve. And when you hear the song we just heard, Try Everything, that gives I think a big clue why it hit such a, why it hit such a chord, struck such a chord in our culture. Because that song isn't just fun and catchy, it also pulls out something that I think is at the core of who we are as human beings. And that whether you or other people are Christian or not, I believe what the Bible teaches us is that, again, no matter who we are, all of us are not just random. We're not just sort of evolutionary accidents. That we have been created by a creator very purposefully with a purpose. And therefore, we come on this planet with a sense of destiny baked into us, a desire for significance and meaning and impact. Like Ephesians 2:10 says, for we are God's masterpiece. Again, we're not an accident. God thought about you when he created you. He knew you before you were born, the Bible says in another place. He created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things that he planned for us long ago. That before you ever got here, he already had a destiny for you. And that's why little kids have that sense of destiny in them. If you ask a little kid, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? They never say anything lame, like pastor or something like that, right? They always want to be something awesome. And you're like, yeah, okay, but eventually that gets kind of squeezed out of most people. But we still have that sense of, I want my life to count. I want my life to matter. And we all know of, or maybe know people who really seem to do that well. We look at their lives and they think, wow, they have so much impact and meaning and significance. They're killing it. And you can look at those kind of people and think, well, yeah, the reason they're that way is because they're so talented. More talented than most people. Or maybe, well, they just don't have the same limitations the rest of us do. They don't have the same things that hold them back. But that's actually not true at all. What separates highly impactful people is not necessarily more talent. It's what they do with it. And it's certainly not limitations, because everybody has limitations. Everybody has setbacks. It's those people are able to get through their limitations in a way that they don't limit them the same way. And that's what we're going to talk about today. As we do this movie, Zootopia, we'll see the kind of the plot of the movie, but here's our big idea today, is stop letting what holds you back, hold you back. To stop letting what holds you back, hold you back. Because every one of us in this room, as I've been doing this message, I've found things in my life I've talked to God about. Every one of us has things that hold us back. And imagine if those things that hold us back no longer held us back. I mean, it's not that we're not doing anything or we have no significance, but imagine if we push through whatever limits us, whatever holds us back to really the destiny that God has made us with. And so that's what we're talking about is Judy is this little bunny in Zootopia. Zootopia, this big animal kingdom where all the animals get along, predators and prey, and this one big happy world. And she's a bunny, and in a world where there's big animals, she's a bunny, and so there's never been a bunny policeman, never been a bunny cop. Because you've got big animals, right, more appropriate. But she wants to be a cop. That's her dream. There's never been a bunny cop, but she wants to be a bunny cop. And so that's kind of her thing. And she's got to push through a bunch of stuff in order to get that, in order to be there and make the difference that she wants. And the first thing we're going to see illustrated in the movie is what holds most people back, and that is fear. That's the most common thing that holds people back is fear. Because if you take a step that's insecure, you don't know what's going to happen. If I sign up, if I move forward, if I take that faith step, what's going to happen? Most people, right, fall short because of fear and insecurity. And sometimes it's the voice in our own head that says, no, don't do it. It's not safe. May get disappointed. Or sometimes it's the voices of people around us that cause us to live smaller than maybe we could otherwise. And we're going to see that illustrated in this first clip. That's a great line. It's great to have dreams as long as you don't believe in them too much. And her parents are not mean. They're saying what they're saying because they love her. They don't want her to get disappointed. They don't want her to be hurt. So easier to play it safe because otherwise taking risks and not playing it safe, you can get hurt. You can get disappointed. And that is logical. I mean, think about it. I mean, the thing that's true of every risk is it's risky, right? Every risk is risky. Not risking is not risky. So, or at least it feels like on the surface, but let's think about that a little differently. In fact, here's the question. What if the bigger risk in life is the risk of playing it too safe? Then what if the biggest risk in life to living the impact we want is not necessarily taking risks, but is choosing to play it safe? Jesus told a story about that. And actually, Eric Torrance, one of our teaching pastors on staff, spoke about this whole passage a couple months ago. So I would encourage you to watch that because he was able to go, spend more time. It's a great message. But the story is about this very wealthy guy who is traveling, going away for a long time, long enough that he pulls 3 of his people that work for him together and says, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to give each of you a certain amount of money, and I want you to grow it when I'm gone. And you invest it, do something with it to grow it, and when I come back, then I will reward you based on what you do with what I've given you. So he goes away, long time, comes back, gets the 3 of them together. The first one, he says, well, how did it go? And he said, well, I did invest your money. I did take a risk, and it grew. In fact, I doubled your money. And the guy was like, awesome, my good and faithful servant, you did great. Here, I'm going to reward you big, and I'm going to give you more to work with so that you can keep doing it. And then the second one, same exact thing. He doubled it. Well done. You did great. And here's your reward, all that. Then the third guy. The third guy had a different strategy. He had the just grow carrots strategy. Play it safe. Don't take a risk because he was scared. And here's what he says. Then the servant came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant, gathering crops you didn't cultivate. Shrewd. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back. His strategy was bury it. Don't do anything with it. Play it safe. And I think when he had, hey, here's all your money. I didn't lose anything. I think what he expected to hear as well, good job also. Way to go. You didn't lose a thing. But that's not what he heard, because that wasn't the job. What he heard instead is, you wicked and lazy servant. Why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. Like, why'd you just bury it? That wasn't the job. And he gets in a lot of trouble. And then Jesus makes the point of the story. He says, to those who use well what they are given. Now he's talking about you. and me and what God has given us. He's given you influence. He's given you gifts and abilities. He's given you money. He's given you other resources. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. And the teaching is pretty clear, right? Is that God expects us to do something with the resources, opportunities, all that, and gifts and abilities. He expects us to do something in what we've been given, which means you have to take a risk. You have to take sometimes a scary step. It's easier not to, but you do it. When you look at the Bible, like Bible heroes in the Bible, these people that did all this big stuff, that's what one thing that every one of them had in common is they had to push through initial fear to say, I'm not gonna play it safe, I'm gonna take the scary step. Some of you may be at one of those times in your life right now. Probably all of us are in one way or another, where there is some step, big or little, that you believe God is nudging you to take. Maybe it's in your relationship with God. Maybe you're not a Christian and you're here, which is awesome. That's a big step. And just to keep being here, to keep being open and all that is a risk. You could get disappointed. You can decide to play it safe or continue to take steps. Some of you may be a Christian, but there's a step that you're calling to maybe in a group or something like that. Maybe you're a college student and you're here for the summer now. And let me encourage you, get involved in college ministry. I'll give a plug for it, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. Because there's life change there. There's relationships there that would be helpful. It's easier not to. It's easier just to play it safe, to bury the opportunity. But your life could change significantly if you push through that. For those of you who are high school students, there's Lyft. It's easier not to do that on Sunday nights. Or we've got a group leaving right now on a mission trip to Jamaica of high school students. And all those, that's a scary step for a lot of they're taking. God's gonna use them. So maybe it's something like that or in a group or something, a small group as adults. Or maybe it's something in ministry, like in the church or in the community, and you feel the need or you feel like God is nudging you to make a difference, to volunteer, to sign up, but it's easier not to. But on the other side of that, you just don't realize what you're missing. That's the risk of playing it too safe. Maybe it's something in your career or in your business, and you believe God is calling you to take some risk. Now, let me say this. There are a few of you, in fact, the few of you that I'm talking to are really listening right now because you're big risk takers. And you're like, yeah, we're, selling everything, moving to Maui, whatever. And maybe that's a thing to do. But there's a few of you that need to be like, hey, chill out on the risk thing. Just talk to somebody first. It may still be a good idea, but, talk to some people. But 99% of us need the nudge to not play it safe. Judy, the little bunny in the movie, is not a play it safe person, and she pushes through the voices that are telling her to play it safe. She goes to the police academy, graduates at the top of her class, and that's amazing. First bunny cop ever. And then the next hurdle is her first assignment as a policeman, as a cop, is not what she thought. And it's something that most of us do have to push through one time or another. It's what I'm gonna call small beginnings. Now, the reason I'm calling it that is there's an Old Testament verse back in Zechariah where God, talking to his people who had this big dream, this big thing God was calling them to, but they had to start really small and it could get discouraging. And God says, do not despise the days of small beginnings because there's purpose in that. Be faithful in the days of small beginnings. Don't despise the day of small beginnings. And that'll make more sense as we see this clip. All right. Gotta love the bunny energy there, right? Because it could have been so deflating. I'm sure it was deflating. There's this big case out there, missing mammals and what's happening, and it's a big deal. And it's her first assignment. And instead, she gets parking duty. She becomes a meter maid. And she could have easily gotten stuck being a meter maid, just do a bad job being a meter maid. But she didn't. She's like, 100 tickets? No way. I'm doing 200 tickets before noon. She'll just become the best meter maid in the history of meter maids. And that's the kind of thing God looks for too. In the story that we just heard about that Jesus taught about the rich guy, and he gives money to the people and then all that. What he says to the two people that do well, it says the same thing. He says, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I'll give you many more responsibilities. Jesus says in other places, if you want God to entrust you with a lot of impact, responsibility, well, then be faithful with a little. Because God looks at how we handle little things before he gives us big things. It's just the way it works in God's kingdom. And then it's kind of the way it works in life too. And some of you may be in a situation where you feel like you're underappreciated, undervalued, underemployed, that you're overqualified. It's not a big deal and it feels random and terrible for whatever reason. Maybe it's your first job and you're like, or even you're a teenager and you're in a job, and you're like, oh, nobody cares about this or whatever. Or maybe you're later in career and feel like you've been have a detour, kind of sidelined, and your qualifications are so much bigger than this job. And let me encourage you not to despise the day of small things. Just be faithful. Knock it out of the park. Because the easiest way to get stuck in that kind of situation is to allow yourself to get stuck and do a bad job. But if you do the opposite, right, then other people will notice that. And even if your boss doesn't notice, or your company or your school or whatever it is doesn't notice it, God will, because God ultimately is our boss. And he says, hey, whatever you do it as unto the Lord, as if God is the boss. Because when he looks at influence, it's like, well, who's being faithful in the small things, then I can give greater things. Well, Judy does that. And she knocks it out of the park, and because of that, she does get an entryway. She's able to get involved in a real case with these missing mammals. And then once she gets involved, she does so well, she's the one that presumably cracks the case. Now, they realize later that actually not, that there's a crime underneath the crime, meaning what's going on is these predators that are missing end up being found, but they're predatory. All of a sudden now, predators in Zootopia that have not been predatory in forever, and therefore they can all stay together, prey and predators. Now these few are acting up, and it's creating fear and all that. And so she uncovers part of what's going on in this first part of the movie, and she gets credit for it. Everything's great, but in the process, she makes a huge mistake and realizes it. Is that she blames every predator, not just these relative few, but paints every predator the same color. She stereotypes predators in a way that causes predators to be diminished and oppressed. And what was once happy Zootopia is now not that way at all. And a big part of that is it was her fault. She fails. And that gets us to the third thing that we're going to be talking about, and that is failure. That if you and I are going to ever accomplish a lot, one of the things we're going to have to get through is failure, is struggle, is times when we mess up. And actually, if you do it the right way, you become better than if you never failed in the first place. But it's a big hurdle. Let's watch the scene. Now, that's not the end of the movie. It'd be a terrible ending, right? If she just fails and then, Zootopia is still terrible. She gets back on track, but one thing that she has to do is push through that failure, because she did blow it. And she did hurt a lot of people. That's just reality. And so she quits. She goes back to selling carrots, and she could have gotten stuck just selling carrots, but she had the opportunity to push through failure in a way that could actually make her better on the other side of it, because that's what failure can do if we travel through it in a unique way. She does. She realizes that the real issue that's going on in Zootopia underneath, and she gets back in the game and, saves Zootopia. It makes it one big happy place again. But she has to work through failure. And that's true of when I said earlier about all the Bible heroes that we're like, oh, they're so amazing. You read about the Bible. They all do, like I said, had to push through fear and take some big steps. But they also had to push through times of failure that could have derailed them, that could have made them quit, that could have made them stop. And that would have been the end of their story, the final chapter. They could have made failure final, but they didn't. They allowed failure to be a teacher, to actually help them learn and to help them be less proud, more humble, so on. For example, Peter in the New Testament. So Peter was one of Jesus' 12 disciples. When Jesus is crucified, raises from the dead, goes back to heaven, he leaves the mission with these disciples and others around them that become what we call church. But the church is Jesus' movement on this planet. And Peter was tagged by Jesus to say, hey, you're going to be the first big leader of it. And he tells him that, but he also tells him, but before that happens, you're going to fail, and you're going to fail big. You're going to deny me. You're going to deny knowing me at the time where I actually need you most. You're going to bail out on me. And Peter's like, no, I'm not. I would never do that, because Peter was bold and brash and arrogant and confident. I never do that. You're wrong. And Jesus says, no, I'm not wrong. It's going to happen. But in that context, or in that process, we get to eavesdrop on the conversation because Luke puts the conversation between Peter and Jesus in here. And let's just hear what Jesus says to him. Simon, Simon, because his name is Simon Peter. Simon, Simon, Satan is asked to sift all of you, the disciples, as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. You will fail. I'm praying your faith will get you through failure, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. He said, look, this is going to happen. I'm praying for you. But when you turn back, when you get through this, I need you to lead. I need you to strengthen your brothers. I'm going to need you. You know, the most powerful word in that whole thing for me is a 4-letter word you can say in church. It's W-H-E-N, when. He doesn't say, Peter, if I'm praying for you, and if you get through this, then strengthen your brothers. He didn't say if. He says when. Because he's holding out a next opportunity. He's holding out, he's praying for him, he's for him. He's saying, Peter, you're going to get through this. And when you do, not if you do. It reminds me of a time when I blew it one time. I was asked to be on the faculty of an organization that I really respected. So it was this, you don't know who they are, but I'm going to try to describe it. So it was called Leadership Training Network. They did these church conferences. This was like 25, 26, 27 years ago. They did these church conferences all over, really impressive faculty. In fact, I don't think you're impressed enough. So when I say Leadership Training Network, I want you to go, like, sound impressed. Like, oh, okay. So here we go. It was Leadership Training Network. See? Something. So I so admired these speakers and leaders involved in that. And so I was at a conference, and the director, named Sue Mallory, said, hey, I want to talk to you. And I go, and the whole faculty's there, and they asked me to be part of their faculty at Leadership Training Network. Yeah, you know? And I felt that. I was like, are you kidding? Are you sure? Like, that's amazing. Like, and part of it was good, right? Part of it was I felt honored. But the other part of it is my ego started going, you know? And there was, again, it's not all bad. Everything we do is mixed, but I was feeling like I've arrived. Like, I've made it. Like, this is awesome. Like, I'm amazing. And then we had the first conference where I was one of the speakers. I was the third session, and I was prepared. I was ready. I was going to kill it. Didn't quite work out that way. That talk bombed. And some of you are thinking, oh, I bet it wasn't that bad. It was worse than what you're thinking. Way worse. It started out bad. Everything I did to try to make it better made it worse. And it was terrible. And so, you know, at the end of that day, the faculty always met and had a debrief session of, okay, what are we going to learn? Because we got it tomorrow as well. And let's, you know, figure out how to get better and, you know, what could go better, what could go wrong, like as he should. So we're in the evaluation session, and I'm thinking, I'm dreading it. And everybody's dreading it for me because they know eventually it's getting to me. And when it does, Sue said, well, Jeff, let's talk about the talk. And again, I kind of expect her to say, hey, it wasn't as bad as you thought. She did not. She said, hey, Jeff, you probably know better than any of us that went really badly. And it was like, yeah. And he said, so what I want to do is I want us to evaluate. I have some thoughts. You have some thoughts. All of us have thoughts. How it could be way better next time. Because I believe next time it's actually going to be great. And I couldn't believe I was hearing the two words, next time. I was thinking, yeah, no next time. Thanks for playing. See you later. But no, it was, hey, next time. It was a very powerful moment. And then she did give feedback, and she was like, hey, here's where you lost people right off the bat. I didn't understand the audience. I did something that turned everybody off right away. And then everything I tried to do to get back just made it worse. And then I understood why. And it did make me a better communicator, certainly for that audience, but in general, maybe a better human, because I needed some of my arrogance and overconfidence knocked out of me, and it sure did that. But that concept of next time and the opportunity that failure is not final or doesn't have to be, the failure can be part of our journey that helps us do better, be better at life and whatever God's called us to do. But that's always a choice, isn't it? And some of you may you may relate to that, and you think, man, I have failed, or maybe it's not one big whopper, maybe it is, but maybe it's a sin struggle or some other kind of struggle you have emotionally or mentally or whatever it is, or you just feel like such a loser and you think, oh, people who do great things are not like me, I'm just struggle. But think about it. The only people that God has to work with that he uses for his purpose in the world, the only people he has to choose from, think about this, are sinners, failures, losers, strugglers. That's all he's got to work with. And if you're in that category, perfect. You get the job. That's what he's looking for. Because that's all, and he loves doing it. The only people he doesn't use are perfect people. Of course, those don't exist anyway. Except, they may be deluded into thinking they are, but they don't exist. And so don't let failure be final. Just let it be part. Don't let struggle define you. Instead, take that to God. Say, God, I want to get better. I want this to be a teacher in my life, but it doesn't scratch us off the list. And certainly that's true for Judy in the movie, the little bunny, because she does get through her failure and she figures out what's going on underneath, why some predators are doing this, and there's a crime underneath it. She gets back in the game. She's a much more humble bunny now. She does it even better, and she's able to bring order back to Zootopia. It's a beautiful thing. And then at the end of the movie, she gives a speech. And it's at the academy, the police academy graduation. It gives perspective that I think we need. And so let's watch. Now, that's a good speech. If she had been hired by Leadership Training Network and did that, right, she would have gotten a good evaluation. But it was a good speech. And what she's saying is absolutely true, that, hey, there's room for all of us to play, all of us to participate. We just need to try everything. We need to try. We need to take the step. We need to engage to make the world a better place. It takes all of us to do that. And that's not just some nice church thing. That's reality. God has a mission on this planet that he is working. He has chosen, he has crafted you. He has made you. Even before you were born, he knew you, the Bible says. He created you as his masterpiece with something to do. And you and I can walk as much into that as we want. And the trick is, well, how can we find out the things that hold us back and get through those? How can we stop letting what holds us back hold us back? Because all of us have these. And for you, maybe what's holding you back, if you could put them on the screen there, maybe it's fear, like we talked about. Maybe just insecurity. It's easier not to. It's easier not to take a step. Maybe it's small beginnings. You're either, it may be a beginning, or it's not a beginning for you. It's like a detour for you later in life, and you just feel undervalued, underappreciated, and you're just kind of phoning it in. And don't make that mistake. Be faithful with it. Or maybe failure and struggle, and we just talked about, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's hurt that you still carry with you from some church or some organization or family or life or whatever, and you're allowing that to hold you back because you won't work through it, you won't process it, you won't get on the other side of it, help God get you past your past. and you say, okay, I need to get past my past. Maybe it's distraction. There's so many distractions in our world that we can be busy, we can be entertained, we can be, going off chasing all kinds of things that don't really matter when God invites us to what really matters. Maybe that's it for you. I don't know. Maybe it's something else. But I know every one of us has things that hold us back. So I want us to go to God with this because I believe he'll help us get past the things that hold us back. So let's pray together, bow our heads together. And if you're new in our church, this is what I typically do when I speak is I just get us praying, get us all talking to God, not just only me praying for you. So talk to him. He's your Father. He loves you. Just talk to him. And just ask the question to God. God, what is holding me back from the kind of impact, significance, meaning that you would want from me, that I crave? What holds me back? And whatever comes to mind, just say back to him, okay, God, if that's it, if it's fear or whatever it is, God, would you help me not let that hold me back anymore? Would you give me the focus and the strength and the discipline to say, you know what, no more. I'm going to, whatever it is, God, help me to get on the other side of that. Father, I thank you that you're always for us. You're always with us. Just like you said to Peter, hey, I'm praying for you. I'm pulling for you. Thank you that that's who you are. You always want what's best for us. And you're so patient in the process. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.